Who did this? Who the freak ate my snack pack?
Good morning and welcome back to the channel. My name is Shadowcast. Today we are starting the new Art Alternatives big sketchbook. So we'll go ahead and get started with it. Today I'm drawing a Kirin. It is a Chinese unicorn, kind of built like a deer. It's got fish scales down its back. It's got a single antler in the middle of its forehead. It's always been one of my favorite mythical creatures. And so I figured why not start the sketchbook off right by drawing one of my favorite things. I did the sketch originally. I started like a deer drawing sketch in the old sketchbook. I liked the pose enough that I wanted to copy it. So we're redoing it as a mythical creature instead of just a regular old dumb deer. Just kidding, I love deer. They scare me, but I love them. Obviously, this has been sped up a lot. I didn't really think you'd want to sit through an hour and a half long session. So that's what we got right now. And I'm using a few deer references that I've got pinned on Pinterest for this. Mostly for pose and how to put everything so that it looks like a creature that is proportionate and can, you know, actually move. But it was pretty fun. If you can't, if you've been following me for a while on YouTube, you know that this is my first voiceover that I've done. I've got music in the background for the lull parts when I stop talking. I don't typically talk a lot when I'm drawing and sketching. It's a little bit difficult for me to stay focused on the art when I'm chatting. If you follow me on stream, you'll also know that. But basically just wanted to kind of give a different perspective of the drawing process. I've gotten a little bit tired of doing time lapses. I feel like the time lapses don't really suit my personality and my art style enough. So I wanted to try something new with you. You know, start to a new sketchbook, new plans, new deals and stuff. So that's what we're doing here. With that being said, if you do like this format more, I will definitely do this more. It's not enjoyable. It kind of gives me an opportunity to talk about my art process rather than waiting for a sketchbook tour when I forget how I did stuff and why I did stuff and everything. Since this is a new sketchbook, I do have new goals for it. Mostly I'm looking to kind of develop my own art style. I've got somewhat of a style, but I'm realizing that I'm much better at mimicking other people, and I don't necessarily have a style to call my own. So that's kind of what my thought process is with this new sketchbook. I'm going to be trying to develop my own artistic voice, as well as practicing more anatomy with humans and animals. So I'm hoping to get some more dynamic poses from animals and people as well. There'll probably be a lot more portrait practice and more human practice and stuff. I'm, ever learning. Even with art degrees and art classes that I've taken and stuff, I feel like I squandered my education a lot because I didn't really retain most of the information, and then I let myself take too long of a break in between art, and I feel like I really suffered for it. There's a lot of things that I know that I learned that I don't remember and can't recall well enough to replicate. So a lot of it is just relearning some things. I'm hoping, I'm not going to be, and of course the cat. I'm hoping to relearn these things. I'm not going back to school or anything for it. I've got too much debt to make it worth it. But, you know, I'll be watching a lot of YouTube videos. I may check out Skillshare. Certain things, you know, I'm just trying to teach myself how to art better, and at the same time, you know, figure out how I want to do art for me. Cat again. Bort, the ever-present bane of my sketching process. This, honestly, like, this wasn't too slow of a sketch for me. Like, before I sped it up, the sketch itself only took about 30 minutes to get done. Line art took even less time, obviously, but it was fun. I am using the, what are they called? Pigma microns. I lined it in the 0.3. Yeah, I lined it in the 0.3 micron. I did a few of the details in the 0.05. These have been some of my favorite fine liners. They always run really smooth for me, unless my hands are really shaking. So definitely highly recommended from me. Like, they just feel good. I don't use the brush pen hardly ever unless I'm doing like large black fills, but now that I've got alcohol markers, I haven't even really been using that for fills. I'm not great with brush pens. I honestly should take the time to practice with them, since this sketchbook is literally going to be me trying to relearn a lot of things. But yeah, I really recommend these microns. They're really nice. I've had them for several months now. It's been about 8 months, and haven't had any problems with the nibs breaking. Haven't had any problems with them drying out. Nothing like that. So they've done their job very well. This was such a floofy, swishy tail. It was so fun. I do realize, I realized as soon as I started using the marker that I didn't draw a mane for my Kirin. They normally have a lot more flowy hair, and I didn't draw it, so this one is a maneless one. But I did get the tail. I got the swishy tail, and that was interesting. And I borked one of the lines there, but if I hadn't said anything, would you have noticed? This is the 0.5 millimeter micron that I'm going in and just doing the small details. And now I'm erasing. And I am using a cheap Child's eraser. It's a polymer, super rubbery feeling eraser, and I have found that while it is the cheapest, it was free because I took it from one of my kids and they got it from school. It's the best. It erases everything. Alright, and these are my Ohuhu markers. I'm picking out what ones I wanted to use, mostly for the fish scales. The base of the Kirin, I still hadn't really decided, so I'm using the warm grade shades, and then I'm using several greens and a light blue and a couple of yellows. I started coloring in the base of the Kirin with warm gray 0.5, and I realized that it was way too skin colored. And the more I colored it, the more I realized that it looked like skin. Here I'm sketching out where I want the fish scales to lay. So that I don't go all over the place with the flesh-toned warm gray. I can say though that the warm gray did give a good base for everything. And it wasn't like horrible. It would have honestly been fine if I hadn't immediately thought of skin when I was coloring it. Had to go parent for a second, so there's a jump there. And I really like these markers. I've been using those for about a month now, and I highly recommend it. I'm planning on getting more with my Christmas money. That's all I've asked for Christmas, specifically so I can buy more art supplies, because I've become that kind of person where I'm like, just give me money and I will buy my own gifts. So yeah, I am planning on getting more shades. I'm sure you'll be seeing a video in the next month or two on those once I get them. I also have to get some storage options, and I'd like to mount my computer monitors so I have more desk space for storage. After that, I may do a art supply, not necessarily art supply, but like my art corner tour. My studio, there's quotations around that, is in my bedroom. So there's not a lot of, I don't have a lot of options storage wise, and I don't really have a lot of options space wise. So I'm trying to utilize vertical space and give myself a little bit more room to work and room to collect more stuff, because I've got quite a bit of art supplies. I've gone through and thrown out a lot of stuff. I kind of regret doing that, but I mean, I threw out most of my acrylics, mostly because they were over a decade old and they were virtually useless at this point. I had a lot of brushes that I hadn't cleaned and everything, so a lot of that stuff just got tossed, and I'd like to replace it at some point. So this was me realizing that yellow was not going to work, or that warm gray was not going to work, so I went over it with a yellow, also putting a page in behind because I forgot to do that, and I would hate to bleed through. This sketchbook does say that it is okay for multimedia, but to be completely honest, if you don't put a page in, it will bleed through with the second layer. So it works. You just have to have something blocking it to stop the bleed through, and it will ghost on the back of the page. The goal that I have with the sketchbook is to use every page front and back. With me drawing in markers and stuff, I can't necessarily do that because of the ghosting, but I will be doing like pictures on spare sheets of paper and stuff and just taping it in. So I'm going to be utilizing as much space as I possibly can in the sketchbook. So I'm first started using the yellow as kind of a base to the shade, and then I realized that it would just look better if I did the whole thing in yellow. The warm gray definitely was a good base. It gave it kind of a toned down color. This was the number 49 yellow, which does have more of a greenish cast to it. Not a lot, but there's just a slight green to it. The warm gray kind of cooled or warmed it back up, so that was a better deal. So I went through and just did the yellow all over where the warm gray was. And I used I'm not quite sure of the green that I used for the socks. I think it's a 48. So the two meshed well, even with the 49 gray or 49 yellow warmed up. Yes, I'm using 48, or that's 59. I don't remember. I'm sorry. I will put captions for the colors that I'm using so that it's clear. But they blended well together, even with the 48 or 49 yellow warmed up. This is a pretty speedy project. It wasn't a large cure-in. I mean, it covered most of the page, but for the most part, it was pretty compact. And so the colors went on pretty smoothly. I wasn't drawing huge sections, so I didn't really worry too much about having streaks and everything like that. For the gray, I am using a mix of Green Gray 3 and Cool Gray 2. The Green Gray, I'm mostly using that in the yellow spots, and then the Cool Gray 2, I'm using that leading down towards the green socks. So, and I didn't do a lot of heavy shading in it. The markers are still wet, and I noticed some speckling, so I blended as well as I could. I solidified the edges, and I think it turned out fairly well. I'm pretty happy with it. I'm pretty happy with the way it's turned out so far. But yeah, that's where I'm filling in some of the edges and stuff, and then leading it out. One of the goals too is also to kind of learn some better shading techniques, to actually pay attention to light better and stuff. I think I do a fairly okay job. I know I can do better. So that's kind of the goal. I need to really relearn the fundamentals. But I'm gonna give myself credit, and I'm not doing too bad of a job. I'm pretty happy with the progress that I've made in this past year. I'm looking forward to the progress that I'll be making in this coming year. 2020 is going to be the year where I start really learning and start utilizing some of the knowledge that I have. So. Just darkening up some of the edges. I'm just throwing in another yellow, slightly darker yellow, to kind of add a little bit of shading without being so dark. This is where I started using the fish scales. I did a base of green to start. And that green is 59. I used 48 green for the socks, and I used 59 green for the scales. And I'm just taking it right up to the yellow, but I'm not blending it in. A lot of cure-in pictures that you see, not only do they have a lot of flowy hair, but they also have almost like a scaly body all over. It doesn't really appear to be as much fur as like a horse or a deer would have. It's more just kind of different textured scales. I didn't necessarily want to do that for the yellow base. I wanted to keep that more of like a softer look, but I wanted the fish scales to stand off, like apart from it. So I didn't do any blending between the two. And I'm adding in a yellow here just to kind of give different shades within the scales itself. It doesn't show up as clearly on camera as it does in person, but I just wanted to give some different depth. This is where I threw in a little bit of blue to kind of, again, add some depth to the scales, show different tones within it. Then I filled in the horn and added a little bit of the yellow to it as well. And then we're working on the tail. I wanted to do like the scales kind of flow down the tail and then encompass it, so. And I realize my aspect ratio is a little bit off with this video because it didn't scale down how I wanted it to, but that's fine because, you know, the top of my head was in it for most of this, so that's cut off. You get to see it sometimes. And a little bit more depth, a little bit of shading to the scales, not a lot, just a little bit because they're on the top, so I didn't want them to get too dark. And then I'm adding a lighter yellow for the inside of the ear and a little bit of fur sticking out just with the micron. And voila. I'm doing the blue, and I think I used the same green for the socks. I used that in the fur of the tail. Of course that's cut off because aspect ratios don't make sense. And that's my nose. In the way, always. First I blocked out the color in the tail. Realized that I didn't like the way that it didn't seem to flow very well. That green was a little bit warmer than I really wanted, so I threw a blue over the top of it to cool it down and make it blend a little bit better. Try and check and see if I'm bleeding through. And that's it. Here, of course, it doesn't show because aspect ratios. I am using the Uniball gel, the gold Uniball gel to fill in the hooves and the horn. And of course, it's not nearly as sparkly on camera. I also realized that I threw the tail in front of the horn, which doesn't make too much sense, so I'm fixing that, which is great. With this gel pen, you don't even notice. And a cat that I'm trying to keep from messing up my wet gel pen. These dry fairly slow, and I was so nervous about bumping something. But I wanted that gold in there. Like, I wanted it to have a little bit of sparkle and shimmer to it, so we threw it in. I also did a gold eye, which it blends so much in with the yellow that I'm a little bit disappointed with it, but it's not too bad. I'm just using a darker or a light brown to fill in the nose. I was going to speckle the fish scales with the gold, but I wasn't sure if I could do that well enough. I'm darkening up around the bottom of the eye to kind of separate the two eye and the skin around it, and that helped it quite a bit. And then this is just me fixing the line art from the gold pen. Just going in, just making sure that that black is still lining everything. This is where I threw the gel pen around the fish scales to give it a little bit of separation and a little bit more sparkle. It's, like I said, it's really sparkly in real life, especially under like the lamp that I have to light the sketchbook. Like, it looks a lot better. So, you know, add a little bit of the gold to the tail as well. Then just fixing the line art here and there. But that's it. You know, I'm really happy with the way it turned out. It was a fun piece to do for the first page in the sketchbook. Hopefully this will set a good precedent. Hopefully this will set like a good tone for the rest of the sketchbook. I know that it's a daily thing. I have to go in with a positive mindset and at least the want and motivation. My art suffers from lack of motivation some days, so I need a lot of the goals is not only to learn new things and to practice new things, but also to not draw if I'm not into it. Like if I'm really not in the mood to put pen to paper, then to just take a step away. Like I need to get in the mindset that it is okay to take breaks. I've suffered from that for the past few months, that, you know, I'm always on the go. I always have like this need to keep going. So that's kind of the goal for this next couple months in this new year, is to know my limits and to push past my skill limits, but not necessarily push past my mental limits or my, you know, physical. I need to start taking better care of my mind and my body. So those are the goals. But that's it for this video. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. Thank you so much for watching the video. If you like it, please like and subscribe to the channel. If you click the bell, you should get notifications for when I post more content. If you want to see more of this kind of draw with me, not necessarily draw with me because these are going to be semi-short-ish videos, but if you want more of like the slowed down videos with some explanations for what I'm thinking and doing, then just leave a comment, or I mean just like the video, just let me know, and I will endeavor to post more stuff like this. But that's it. And you can always follow me on Instagram and Twitter. I post more content there, especially Instagram. You'll get to see sneak peeks of sticker designs and art that I'm working on that I don't necessarily record. And then Twitter, I post when new videos go up, when I'm live on Mixer, or, you know, life updates. So that's it for this. Thank you guys so much, and I'll catch you later. Bye-bye.
Who did this? Who the freak ate my snack pack?